Cubism was established as a style between 1907 and 1914 by the artists Pablo Picasso and Georges Braque. This new style was inspired in these artists by some of the later works of Paul Cézanne and the artistic style some African tribes show in their carved masks. Cubism as a term to describe this new style was first coined by Louis Vauxelles, a French art critic, after he saw the landscapes painted by Braque, which were inspired in part by Cézanne. Cubist painters purposefully went against the idea that art should copy nature. They also rejected the idea that artists should use traditional techniques such as perspective modeling and foreshortening. Instead, the artists wanted to focus on the two-dimensionality of canvas while suggesting the three-dimensionality of the subject of their art. They did this by simplifying objects into geometric shapes and planes and using multiple angles from which the object is shown in their art.
Pablo Picasso was a Spanish artist who specialized in painting and sculpting. He was born on October 25, 1881 in Spain and died 91 years later on April 8, 1973 in France. Picasso, being one of the most famous painters, dabbled in many periods of art, such as the Blue Period, Rose Period, Cubism, Classicalism, and Surrealism. Picasso's famous works of art had significant meanings to him, quoting, "I don't say everything, but I paint everything." Picasso was able to express his emotion through art, and his pieces in Cubism showed his abstract thoughts during that point of his life. The Demoiselles d'Avignon, translated to the Young Ladies of d'Avignon, was painted over the course of 9 months, eventually finishing in 1907. The painting portrays nude women standing around each other, and here there is no vanishing point, so the viewer is forced to capture the picture as a whole. There is a clear influence of Cubism and is shown with organic and geometric shapes, making this one of Picasso's most famous Cubism pieces. Now, The Weeping Woman, created in 1937, shows a woman constructed of organic and geometric shapes filled with one color each. This heavy use of bold primary and secondary colors calls attention to the gray tears on the woman's face. By making the tears gray, Picasso draws attention, creating a focal point on the woman's expression.
Salvador Dali is one of the most celebrated artists of all time. He is a well-known surrealist artist, but has worked outside of surrealism due to whatever occurrence was happening in his life. In 1922, Dali began to attend Academia de San Fernando in Madrid. Here's where Dali began to experiment new art techniques. Cubism helped him gain the most popularity within his classmates, although he didn't necessarily understand the movement. Dali highly admired Picasso, and as far as his dabble with Cubism was ultimately inspired by him. Now, as far as Salvador Dali's personal life, a year prior to his Cubist phase, his family experienced the loss of his mother, causing Dali to feel a new sense of sadness. This new overwhelming sense of sadness led into Salvador Dali's Cubist phase. And in this Cubist phase, he produced his most famous Cubism piece, Autorretrato Cubista. Painted in 1923, Salvador Dali uses Cubism to produce this famous self-portrait piece. He centers his face in the middle, while the rest represent himself in a non-traditional form. He uses line and color to emphasize what he was feeling at this time in his life. Everything is off-centered, and the color blue is really emphasized to further highlight his sadness and his grief. The lines in the art piece create a sense of rhythm, and this rhythm therefore better focuses on the focal point of the picture, which is the face that is centered directly in the middle.
Juan Gris was born in 1887 into a family of 14 children. He trained as a painter in Madrid and studied mechanical drawings at the local art schools growing up. He then moved to Paris when he was young, and that's where his career started to take off. He started by sending his paintings into magazines, which were published. When he got a little bit more famous, Daniel Henry Conwheeler decided to sign him to a contract where his paintings were then displayed in world-famous galleries in Europe. He developed newer styles of Cubist painting, such as synthetic cubism. He became one of the most commercially successful artists of his time. He suffered from asthma and cardiac problems and died due to kidney failure in 1927. Juan Gris's aim was to please the eye. His well-balanced compositions, saturated colors, and traditional subjects popularized his take on Cubism. Juan Gris found Picasso, who was the founder of Cubism, as a major mentor for him. Picasso takes up most of the space of this painting, making him the primary focal point. Juan Gris uses cool colors of blue, gray, and brown, which allows Picasso himself to be the emphasis of the artwork. Picasso's facial features are unclear and he is dressed in formal clothing. This portrays Juan Gris's respect for Picasso. He also uses parallel lines and geometric shapes in the background, showing motion.
While Cubism was an abstract time period for these artists, they used formal qualities of shapes and bold colors to make the interpreter second-guess what they were looking at. The use of organic and geometric shapes helps show mass and volume in each piece.